So we're super excited that we're based here now in the FibreHub and that we can kind of help support the tech community, welcome you guys, tech companies, non-tech companies, business support, whoever you are, anyone kind of involved in tech. We're just super excited to be here. So we'll do kind of a quick intro. My name's Nikki Davies. This is obviously not me. This is a dog that I recently fostered called Izzy, who is rocking her cone of shame, but she photographs way better than I do, so it's much better to put her on screen. But I kind of look after the membership and marketing here at Software Cornwall. I've been with the team just under a year, I think, and my sort of background is predominantly marketing for tech startups and tech consultancies. I've been doing that for around 15 years, I think. And I started kind of my career in sort of UX design and that sort of thing. So I've kind of had this strange journey. I'm not somebody that can code, but I feel like I'm the one that raises the profile of those that can and kind of tell your stories and shout about kind of all this cool stuff that people who are far more technical than me can actually do. So we're going to be using Slido for our Q&As today. It is the same Slido as this morning. So if you were in this morning's session, you should be able to just fire up your browser and use the same link. For those of you that haven't used Slido, just head to www.slide.do, and there's an event code there as well, which is the DT space code. So pop that into the browser when it pops up and then hit join, and you should be able to submit your questions in there. We're going to do that to avoid kind of passing around microphones. So do that throughout the duration this afternoon. Do that for our speakers as well. And we'll be able to kind of feed those questions back and hopefully hear kind of what you guys have to say and share some of those things with the team. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes at the beginning to give you a little bit of an intro into Software Cornwall and kind of who we are and kind of our purpose, really. I'm aware there's a lot of members in the room. There's members online as well. So hi, those of you that are joining virtually. I know there's a few abroad as well. So really, really great that we can get you here as this sort of hybrid event. But for anyone who doesn't know who we ultimately are a not-for-profit membership community here to support the tech, digital and software businesses in Cornwall. We've been kind of unofficially going for about 10 years, but we incorporated in 2014. And it more or less started up as kind of a directors peer group, a bit of a meetup for people who founded software companies and just wanted that peer support, sense of camaraderie, and to learn from each other through some of the programs that were going on at the time to help get their businesses going and support them on their journey. And we've got some key people in the room today. There's Mike Barrett, who's one of the official co-founders of Software Cornwall, and Mike kind of pioneered this when he was working for Oxford Innovation at the time. And it was actually, I think 10 years ago, it's fair to say, there probably wasn't that big of a tech scene in Cornwall. But in the last 10 years, that has grown exponentially. And in a recent Tech Nation survey, Cornwall was rated one of the fastest growing tech communities throughout the UK. And I think we've had a growth of something like 250% of growth in the tech industries in Cornwall, and that was between I think 2015 and 2018. So it's grown again since then. Our ambition is obviously we want to see it grow more. We want to help your businesses grow, we want to help entrepreneurs get started, and we make relationships and partnerships across Cornwall to do that. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of things today. Like I said, this is our new home. We're so happy to be here. Hopefully you've all had a chance to kind of wander through the corridors, come and see the digital transformation space with unlocking potential at the end of the corridor at the far end. We're in room 7. Don't go and look at it today because it's full of boxes. But generally that's where you'll be able to find me and the team. But for anyone remote, if you are a member, obviously you'll be part of our Slack community as well. And that's kind of where you can get hold of us and come and find the team. So really excited to have a base here. Software Cornwall represents around 80 to 100 member companies, and within those companies, probably around 1,000 individuals. The companies are a complete mix. So even though we're Software Cornwall, actually, we also represent a lot of creative digital industries, lots of business support, IT services, hardware, embedded software, IoT, cybersecurity is a growing industry, sustainability, really, really important. That's a growing cluster as well. And B2B and B2C companies as well. And this is actually a couple of months out of date. So there's probably a few on there. And if you're a new member, you won't be on this yet, but I will add you. And that just kind of shows the breadth of some of the organizations that we work with and that we try and support. And obviously they support us as a community as well. But this is changing. The landscape's changing. I think it's fair to say the Cornish tech landscape is changing. And actually companies that identify as a tech company are also changing. I think it was in Toby's talk this morning, and it's been alluded to all day, is that actually if you're not going through digital transformation, if you're not involved in tech, if you're not online, then you are going to kind of get left behind. So there's a lot of traditional businesses now employing tech teams to come and actually run their businesses and services. So where you might actually be, really good example, and I think Jake's in the room somewhere, Sea Salt, brilliant Cornish businesses. They're one of our members. They're known as retail, but they have a huge e-commerce back end, great tech team there. And that's just one example. So we represent a lot of different companies from a lot of different backgrounds. We couldn't do the work we did without our partners and sponsors and support. Obviously, Unlocking Potential, we are now officially neighbours, which we're really pleased to be in the room with them. And we couldn't put this Tech Connect event on today if it wasn't for their support. So big thanks to the team at UP. Real Ideas, they've got an amazing co-working space over in Newquay, C Space, and also have just recently opened the Market Hall in Plymouth as well. They're doing some really, really great work, and we kind of love working with them. There's also Digital Skills. Chloe, who's still in the room? There she is. Love working with the DSP on kind of their stuff as well and helping bring those digital skills into Cornwall, very much on the government's agenda as well, and making sure that we're aligned with there and doing our best to support Chloe and her team. Cornwall Marine, we run programs with Cornwall Marine Network. They're looking after a huge marine cluster. Obviously, there's a lot of kind of offshore, there's renewable, wave tech, there's also all sorts of marine technology in Cornwall as well. So it's really great to kind of be involved with Cornwall Marine. Falmouth Launchpad, we've just signed a lifetime partnership with Falmouth Launchpad to support their entrepreneurs coming through their MSc in entrepreneurship at Launchpad to help them as they incorporate their businesses. We'll give them Software Cornwall membership for 2 years to bring them into the tech community as well. We've been in there, we've met their students. They're an amazing bunch of entrepreneurs. And we actually ran one of our Mission to Mars programs from their Launchpad building last week, which was a huge success, run by Robert. And we had people from the tech community come in and speak to the students taking part, but then also entrepreneurs coming in and talking about their journey, which is just bridging that gap and filling in that whole kind of career pathway into tech and showing actually the breadth of skills that are involved. So we're super excited about that. Cornwall Aerospace, very kind sponsors of ours. We did an event with them earlier this year. The space cluster is massive for Cornwall. We're really excited to be working with Cornwall Aerospace. And you'll have had to be living in a cave if you haven't seen the amazing stuff that's going on over at Spaceport. So super excited about that. And Tech Girls, we love the work that Tech Girls are doing. So Caitlin, who's heading up the Tech Girls team, she is basically sort of trying to pioneer this young women getting into tech and showing that there are pathways for them as well. And there was a brilliant Tech Women Connect event that again took place at Launchpad last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think now, which brought around 80 women in tech in Cornwall together to kind of support each other, but talk about some of the challenges women face of getting into tech, but also actually how we can inspire more young women to find their pathway into tech as well. Look out for more stuff from them. I think there's probably going to be several more events next year, and super excited to be supporting them in that as well. This is a Software Cornwall team. We've got Rob here, so I think most people are kind of in the room. Rob, who you'll meet this afternoon, he's going to do a talk. Rob looks after all of our education outreach stuff. If anyone's done one of our Mission to Mars programs or has done any of our code clubs or anything else, nice, then you'll have definitely met Rob. Any school assembly, any kind of extracurricular stuff, you will have seen Rob speaking at the front of a room at some point. He also looks after our business clusters program, which he's going to tell you a little bit more about later. Then there's Kaylee. Kaylee gives a wave. Kaylee's at the front row here. Kaylee has been with Software Cornwall a while and is leading on our ELS project, which is the employer-led skills. This is another EU-funded program, and it literally is what it says on the tin. So it helps you as employers skill up your team in very specific skills that you need, and we can support you with that. And Kaylee is also looking after, she's done a lot of work on Agile on the Beach, which I'll come on to later. And basically, without Kaylee, generally things sort of fall apart in the back end. So any comms and website issues, membership stuff, you've probably dealt with Kaylee at some point as well. And then there's Mike, who we've waved at. So Mike's one of the co-founders of Software Cornwall, and sort of has been kind of steering the ship for us for the last couple of years. And Holly, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. So she looks after kind of our operations and finance. And I'm very pleased to introduce a new member of the team today, as we are growing. Introduce you all to Gary, who is joining the Software Cornwall team officially in January, but is going to be doing a little bit for us before then. And Gary's going to be looking after some of our events. You're going to see Gary's face probably a lot more at the front of the room, but I'm going to pass him over and he'll give you a little bit of lowdown into kind of his background.
Hello, right, hello everyone. First things first, I do need to start with a confession. I am from the other side of the bridge, so I apologise. I have friends and family over here, so I do have complete authority to travel both ways. It's fine. And I have spent many times, both over in Cornwall and work with Software Cornwall in the distant and not so distant past. So I'm very excited to be back. I'm literally fizzing with anticipation at the thought of doing more stuff, and especially in my email to you earlier this week when you said, would you like to spend 10 minutes talking about your favourite subject? And I was like, yes, I would.
I actually said 2 minutes.
No, really? Oh, wow, that's disappointing. But either way, yeah, so I've been a self-employed digital content creator, website designer, event manager, anything attached to a computer that someone will be willing to pay me for, I will pretty much have done it. The biggest and most relevant experience you're probably wanting to hear about is I was a former director of a company called Digital Plymouth. As the name would suggest, we were based in Plymouth. We did a very similar thing to Software Cornwall. We ran many conferences and events, and it is fortunately still going on without me being there, obviously. And I kind of stepped back from a few years ago, got a boring office job building websites and slowly losing my mind and a very small part of my soul. So I'm very glad to be here in Software Cornwall, where I can start to get out and see everybody and get a real good opportunity to work with that. And Agile on the Beach especially. I went 2 or 3 years ago for my first time, and it was a genuinely inspirational place for me to be, just to see how much everybody loved it. And I'm really, really looking forward to just getting my teeth stuck into it. So I will almost certainly be the one walking around looking a bit frazzled, but I'm totally looking forward to it. And can I say looking forward to it any more times in this speech? Don't take a drink every time I do that, because that'll be a terrible idea. And I'm going to sit down before I waffle too much. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. We'll give a little warm welcome as well. I'll put my cup down and officially welcome you to the team. So there's the team, and here are some of our goals. So we've been around for a while, and our whole purpose is to basically connect the tech community, Cornish tech community, but also kind of tell the world that we're here. It might be really ambitious to have a small rural tech community kind of want to be world leading, but we just got spaceport. Like, why can't we be world leading? I think we basically are. So it's not a bad thing to be ambitious, and we want to make sure that we as Software Cornwall are here kind of helping that thrive and develop in kind of everything that we do. We really want to provide opportunities. So one of the biggest things we've heard over the last 10 years is that companies are struggling to recruit, and we're struggling to get people, kind of skilled people, into jobs in Cornwall. And we've been working on that since 2014, and our programs, our Mission to Mars programs, is working. It's a really long game. 7 years is a long time to wait for somebody to kind of go through the career pathway. So we're also working on pilots to help people career switch into tech, which I'm not going to steal Robert's thunder, but it's a really, really exciting program we'll come on to a little while later. We want to make sure everybody knows that they've got a role in tech if they want it. And that doesn't mean you have to be a software developer. We need designers. We need people who have got great finance brains. We need brilliant leaders. We need people who can manage, coordinate. We need people who can organize events. We need people that can project manage and do all those things as well. So it's getting that message out that there are so many skills and so many exciting jobs out there that are well paid, and we can actually support that. And that's something that we really want to make sure everyone knows, that they've got a place in tech. And we want to support our community in excelling. So what are their dreams? What are their ambitions? Like, they want to launch a rocket. They want to launch it into space. Yes, we want to support you do that. We want to help you find your job in tech. We want to help you do that. We want to help you get fundraising. We want to help you do that. So all of these things, we want to be able to help our members succeed ultimately, because that will help the Cornish economy. It will help Cornwall as a whole succeed. And that's kind of our role and what we want to do. And if you haven't already heard of Mission to Mars, go and check it out. It's a brilliant week-long program, and it helps us bring in young people who basically get the chance to play as if they're in a tech company for a week. It's all very agile-led. They get to play with our Mars rovers, which you may have seen on our stand in the expo hall. And ultimately, some of them are learning to code with the Mars rovers for the very first time. But they leave at the end of the week having presented back, having had to budget and manage the finance of their project, having had to collaborate and work with a team. So it really is a brilliant opportunity for them to develop their skills. And equally, if you want to support some of the education outreach stuff that we do, you can sponsor a Mission to Mars program. So not only obviously does that get you the usual branding stuff and everything else, but it's a brilliant way to connect with young people who are around 15, 16 years old that are probably hoping to find their career pathway into tech. And if you want to kind of support that education stuff, sponsorship's a really, really great way to do that. So do come and talk to us. We've got some amazing packages, and yeah, we'd love your support on that as well. I'm not going to touch too much on the programs. This is the employer-led skills one, which I mentioned earlier. So if you've got training requirements for your business, come and talk to us. We might be able to give you some support. And Gateway to Tech is one that we'll come on to a bit later on. So we'll cover a little bit more of that later. And this is just a quick summary of kind of some of the things you get for being a member of Software Cornwall. So we are a membership organisation. We're here because of our members. All the work we do on education outreach is basically paid for by our membership and sponsorship. Nobody pays us to do this. The kids get it for free. So all of your membership kind of goes into us supporting the work we do in education. But equally, we want to shout about your events, jobs and news, help promote you as a business, help connect you with the community. We've got 500 people on a Slack network. So if you need anything, you've got questions, that's a really great place to ask it. And all members and their companies get access to that. And obviously, all of your companies get access to our events as well. And this is a few of our events. So obviously we've got our Tech Connect events, which we do 3 or 4 a year. We run tech jams for anybody who wants to come and learn to code. And the next one is taking place on the 13th of November in Wadebridge. And we do these regularly. These are free to attend. You get to play with some really cool toys. These are also really, really great for kids. We run Mission to Mars. Pitch Up at the Pad is a pitching event that we do with Launchpad to help entrepreneurs kind of pitch their ideas to the wider tech community. And most of the operating team that runs Software Cornwall also run Agile on the Beach, which, if you haven't heard of it, is a 500-person conference that takes place in Falmouth every year. It's now in its 10th year, and it brings together all the brilliant minds in Agile to understand their methodologies, ways that they're using it. We've had companies like AO speak this year, Monzo. It's a really, really great place to come and mingle, and you will leave popping with ideas. And tickets for 2022 are on sale now, and there are also loads of sponsorship opportunities if you want to get your local brand to a ton of really cool people. That's a really good place to do it. So do come and talk to us about those. And a save the date for members. It might be too early to talk about Christmas, but we're all for it. So save the date, 1st of December, we're going to have a Christmas party here. And at the Christmas party, we're planning on announcing our dates for all of our Tech Connects next year to give you a bit of a flavour of what we've got coming up for 2022 as well. So it will be here. It'll be in the afternoon, 4:30 till 7. We'll send out details. So if you're not already on our mailing list, make sure you're on it so you get that invite there as well. I've covered Agile on the Beach, and this is our membership packages. It is done on company size. And so basically any size company, you get access to all of our services, and it means that you can just be a part of that community. But I'm going to stop there now. I've spoken enough and my voice will not thank me for it. And so I'm going to introduce some of our speakers for this afternoon. We've got 3 brilliant speakers. Our first one up is Katie Dumont, who she's a freelance engineer and maker. Secondly, Wo King, who's the CEO of High9, is coming to speak. He's stepping in for Rob Ferris from Ferritech, who unfortunately had to drop out last minute. So I do apologise, and Rob does too, if you are hoping to see him. But he will come back for a future event, so hopefully you'll get to meet him soon. And then Max Oates, who is a games developer from Falmouth University. He's going to give you a bit of a talk as well. And then we're going to wrap up with some feedback from our recent member survey and talk to you a little bit more about clusters. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Katie. We'll get some slides swapped over. So as I say, come on in guys, come and grab a seat. So Katie is a freelance engineer. She's a former electronics engineer for SolarGen and a freelancer for Farnell. Katie currently produces videos for Farnell's Element 14's YouTube channel, of which they have nearly 700,000 subscribers. She's very, very comfortable talking in front of camera. The stuff she makes blows my mind. And she's going to talk to you about how to make this afternoon. And Katie, I think it's probably fair to say could make anything out of anything. I'm tempted to put things in front of her and just see what she comes up with, but she's brought some of her projects with you. So I'm going to hand over to Katie now. Please give her a big warm welcome. And I'll hand over.
So I'm Katie. I realise looking at this, the slides can be found there at some point, but they're not committed yet, so don't look quite yet. I just sat there and I was like, I didn't put them on. But right, yeah, you'll be able to find stuff. So I thought a quick introduction of who I am. So I'm an electronics engineer. I did a degree, electronics engineering degree. And I've just realised I can look at it there. I'm a STEM ambassador as well. That's mainly what I've been doing until a year ago. I run the code club at Stithian School, and we've done all sorts of AstroPi competitions, Space Lab. And last year in the lockdown, we did Pi Wars virtually, which I was really impressed with, so I wanted to give them a good say out. They got 8th, and that was in the under 18s category, and they were like 9, 10, 11 with their robot duck that they made. When I put these slides together, they weren't doing it this year, well, for next year, but they apparently were asking every week if I'd do it, so I'm doing it again with them. So yeah. What I do at the minute, so for the last year, I've been a video content producer for Element 14. I come up with a project idea, and then I sort out the parts list. I make the project, I film how to make it, and then put it as like a tutorial on YouTube. So pretty much everything I've put in this thing, you can find a tutorial on YouTube for how to make, if you'd like to make it. It was sort of accidental. I wasn't planning on doing this, but they ran a woman engineer maker competition last year, and I filled out the submission. I deleted it and I filled it out, and then I left it for 3 days, and then I could click submit, and I ended up being one of the winners. And they asked me if I'd make videos. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing at the minute. I was asked like a thing about where hardware meets software, so I thought how to make a project. Summarised everything. I've been to like the geek meetups before and brought along projects, and people who only do web stuff or only do programming seem to think the electronics is a bit magic, but it's not. So how to think of a project, how to start a project. Thinking of the ideas. So if you look at things around you, is there something that needs improving? So recently I made this, our doorbell at home. If someone rings the doorbell and you're in the garden or the shed, you can't hear it. So I modified it so it's the same internals of the doorbell in there, but added with an ESP, so it sends an MQTT message to your phone to tell you that someone's at the door. So that's what's inside of it. The green bit is the original and everything else is added. And then as a second part of that, I also added a screen to the door, so you can press a button on there and tell the postman that you're coming or where to leave your parcels, because why not? So maybe there's something around you that needs a solution. So I've got that's a fume extractor, but you forget to turn it on. So that's got a particulate sensor in it that detects the smoke from the soldering iron and automatically turns the fan on. And I've never found one that you can buy like that, so it's something different. Or ask people if they need something. So that's a GPS speedometer for the bike. or just make something for fun. I've got a few projects over there. Why not make a working camera out of Lego? Just because you can. So if you're starting a project, it's a bit daunting at the start. You think, where am I going to start? But if you break it down, either into physical stages, so I'll get the bit that connects to the doorbell sorted first, and then I'll get the screen done. Or stages, so I'll get one part working and then I'll add the second part onto it. Or just I'll get the hardware sorted and then I'll do the software. Just make it into bits you can tick off, because once you've started ticking bits off, you think you're actually getting somewhere. And then working out what you need. So there's different ways of going about it. There's all of these boards. You can get sort of boards ready made up that you can just start programming and use the LEDs that are on there, or boards that have already got the Wi-Fi built in. And they're all different, or boards that are really easy. And then you can get, I've got pockets full of stuff. I like pockets. You can get boards that just plug into the board, so you don't have to worry about the wiring. You just plug the hat into the board. That's like keypads. That's a board with 25 neopixels on it, built in. Or a GPS module, so you don't have to worry about the wiring. You just plug it straight in and you can start programming. That's probably an easy way. Or you can make the whole hardware from scratch. You can pick your components, you can wire them up, you can use a piece of breadboard or strip board. In my bag. And then you can wire it up. And then the bit where the software comes in, that's the microcontrollers. You've got all your microcontrollers you can pick, or Raspberry Pis, but they're more of a computer. They work differently. So yeah, breadboard's probably the easiest way you start a project. You can just plug it in, plug your component in, everything in a row connects together, everything where there's a colour connects together, any break is a break. So that's quite easy. Or strip board, if you're doing it with components that need soldering, through-hole components, you can put them through there, you can solder on, and you can break any tracks where you need it breaking. So that's a really good way of doing electronics. Or you can design your own PCB, like you get in everything you've got in your house, microwaves or anything. You design it and then you solder your pieces on. So it looks a bit daunting to design something like that, but if you find the component you want, so this is the charger for the battery that's in the torch over there. But you find what you want, and then you open the data sheet, and there'll usually be an applications note, a typical design circuit, and you can use that to start your design, and then connect off there. So it's not quite so bad as it might seem. I thought if we ran through like an example, this is my Internet of Things doorbell. So that's the circuit for it. That's all that's in there that connects to what I took apart. So you've got 5 volts coming in off the power supply. I should have brought it with me, but it's at home connected. And then a converter that will take the 5 volts to 3.3 volts, and that's just all in one component that you connect in. And then that's the ESP microcontroller, which is that one. which you can program up and has Wi-Fi on it. It's an ESP8266. So that takes in button 1, 2, and 3, which are the buttons on the box that you can send your messages to the screen. And it's got one input called bell signal, which is from the doorbell I took apart. The doorbell I took apart had LEDs that flashed on, so I just hooked a wire into the LED signal. And that's the buttons. So there's a pull up and the button, but when the button comes on, the LED will come on to show you that you've pressed it. And then that actually all looks like that. Again, I've used that already. But yeah, so that's all the hardware side of it. And then the door side of it, I've got a Raspberry Pi. On that, I can run Mosquito to pass the MQTT messages, and I've got Node-RED to process them to send it back out. So the screen side of it can hook back in and pick up the messages. And like I was saying, with the bits you can plug on, the screen is a hyperpixel, which is just you plug it straight on the Raspberry Pi and you've got the full screen to use. And then you can leave your message. So when you get to the side where the software is meeting the hardware, you've got your microcontroller. There's loads of different languages, the same as with computers, that you can pick. Some languages work better with certain boards. You've got C, you've got C++, most common Arduinos and PICs, and the ESP was all in C. There's MicroPython, which is a really useful language. CircuitPython, which sort of similar to MicroPython, but it's Adafruit. So Adafruit make quite a lot of these boards. So they've got super libraries for the CircuitPython side of it. And then ... you can do Java and all sorts of languages, right down to, if you're a bit of a nutter, you could do assembly. I mean, yeah. Last time I touched that was university coursework, and I think it sort of stops there. But so that's the code for the doorbell in C. So it's fairly similar to computer code if you were doing C. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but it's all on GitHub. And writing your messages, that's sending the MQTT messages. But then on the Raspberry Pi side, it's not sensible to do C for the Raspberry Pi. It would be harder work than Python. So the Pi side has got Python, which is picking up the messages that the C code is passing out. And that has the Pygame library for doing the display. So you've got the hardware, you've got the electronics, and you've got the software. So if you're doing a project, the next thing you probably want is a case. So there, you don't really want to just carry electronics around in your hand. So your options are, you can buy a case, you can drill holes in as required. There's loads of different shapes, different materials, sizes. Some have mounting, so you can put them straight on the wall. You could 3D print a case for your project. That's a shortcuts keyboard case I made, which all slots together without screws. It took a bit of getting my head round, but it worked. So there's loads of different things you can design in. I use FreeCAD or OpenSCAD, mainly because I don't pay licenses for anything. You could laser cut a case. That is an example of a Pimeroni case because I don't have a laser cutter. I'd like one, but we just haven't got anywhere in our house that would be suitable for the exhaust to go. We worked out the only place with a window that would be safe would be our bedroom. Which probably isn't going to work. So no laser cutter. Or use things around the house that you can see, other materials. So there's a barometer over there, which is in the picture. That's using a Pyrex oven baking dish and an offcut of oak from the stairs we made for our house. Or there's the torch that's using a plastic ammo case that I bought off eBay. You don't have to buy something that's designed for a project to go in. You can make anything you want. Or going back to the first one, you could build out of Lego. So what's next? So now you've got all that, you need to test it. You'll probably need to do some fixing or some changes. You might think of some way of improving it, something to do differently, and then you can start thinking of your next project. So yeah, any questions? That's the end of my talk.
Right, if you've got questions, Katie, please head over to Slido. Put your questions in the chat. It's DT space is what you need. Katie, grab a seat in the purple chair. I'm going to fire some questions at you. There are a couple that have come in already. We'd love to ask. I have a question. Does your house resemble Full Go Gadget house?
A bit.
I feel like it has to.
But a bit more scratch built.
Okay.
Like some houses are full of like the Alexas and that sort of stuff, and we don't, like we've got one telly in the house and stuff. So it's not like tech gadgety, but it's like...
Yeah, in my head. So I've had a few Zoom calls with Katie, and whenever I speak to her, there's this incredible background of this really elaborate workshop. So in my head, you know, you don't just get a breakfast cereal bowl out in the morning, a robot serves it to you, and there's just things and arms coming out of walls and things like that. So, and I do love that you've redesigned the Ring doorbell, by the way, and imagine Katie's version is far less than the £200 it would cost you from Amazon. So, so question here is, what is the coolest or most useful thing you've ever made?
So the most useful, I did like a keyboard shortcuts pad with 12 buttons on it, but you can tell it what program you're using and all the shortcuts change for the program.
Nice.
So
I feel like you probably have to sell that in this room. Anyone in the market, Katie's hanging around. Another question here, this one's coming from Anonymous. Starting to program, are there any best or free software for schematic design and PCB layout designs before committing to paying for one? You mentioned you managed to get away without paying for much. So tell us how you do that.
So for schematics, there's FreeCAD. No, not FreeCAD. KiCad I use. So KiCad is absolutely brilliant. Like my husband does like circuits for work and like radio electronics and stuff, and he does all the work stuff in KiCad, and it's completely free.
Nice. Okay, there you go. What inspired you to start posting projects on YouTube? So I know you do this through Element 14 as well. Have you kind of done that stuff before, or are they just like, no, we need you on our channel?
No, I'd never done it before. They were just like, can you do it? And I was like, I'll have to learn as I go along.
Because am I right in thinking they just sent you a bunch of stuff one day and just said, build something out of a shoebox, and you just did it?
Yes, there's a box somewhere behind me. We did an internal competition between three of us. It was for the 500th episode. And they sent us all the same stuff, and we all got to pick charity organisation. So I did mine for Tech Girls. And yeah, we all had to make something out of the box, and they were all completely different. So mine was a musical instrument that picked up the height of your hand away from it and changed the pitch and the volume and stuff. And then the other guys James did a sort of tricorder copy, and Clem did a parcel measuring device, so it could measure the size of a box.
Nice. That's actually really helpful, because how many times have we gone to the post office and they've stung you for something that is just far more expensive? So yeah, we need that here as well. Is your postie brave enough to press the buttons?
Well, I mean, that side of it is just the normal doorbell that we got off Amazon.
Okay. So to them, they're just pressing a normal bell,
Yeah.
and they don't know the workings in the
They've
background.
got no idea what's
It's probably for the
in the
best.
kitchen.
I like this one. Where did your passion to explore electronic engineering come from?
So I didn't really do anything as a kid as such. I think it sort of came from, like at school I liked DT and the woodworking and stuff, but we didn't do any electronics. There was a magazine, I think they keep pulling it out of the woodwork, called Real Robots, that my brother got a subscription to, but he never put it together. And like at some point, I just nicked it and put it all together. Like he had I think he'd done like the first 3 magazines, and then he had 60 magazines piled on top of each other.
Nice.
So
that's
I
great.
put this robot.
Because you were University of Bath, went on to do your degree in electronics, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really exciting. So you've kind of done this then from an early age, and actually realised actually there's a career path here, and you can go straight down that road.
Yeah, it was sort of all access. I was going to be a primary school teacher. Like I had it in my head I was going to be, and I did like all the college open days I did for like primary school teaching. Days off at secondary school, I went to the local primary school and helped out in like year 1, and I was like, I want to do that. And then it was like the night before submitting college submissions, I just woke up and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I just went through the prospectus and like picked out things that looked interesting. So I ended up doing maths, physics, electronics and computer programming because they all sounded interesting.
That's awesome. Bit different to primary school teacher.
Yeah, and I hadn't ever programmed anything before I walked into the first lecture.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Okay. Question from Chloe. Is it expensive? With tech gadgets being so cheap nowadays, albeit way less fun, is it more about creativity than cost?
Yes, quite often you make something and it probably did cost more than you would have paid.
But it's part of the journey.
I've got this torch and it's really super, but the battery was like 120 quid.
That's amazing.
But you can also blow up an airbed and charge your phone off it.
You're not going to get that on Prime. Ollie wants to know what inspired you to create the Lego camera.
My son bought, it was the camera was part of like a Lego Friends set you could buy. And my son bought the set with his birthday money or something and was putting it together. And I was like, what about if it really works? I went on Amazon and bought myself a set. I didn't nick his. And worked out like how many extra bricks to add in height to fit a Raspberry Pi in there. It was just when the HD camera came out for the Raspberry Pi and I was sort of trying to find a reason to buy one.
And then there's a final question, which I'm almost afraid to ask. What's your biggest and most daring project to date?
I'm trying to think.
I feel like you might just pull it out of your pockets.
I'm trying to think. They always seem really daunting, or most of them seem daunting at the start, and you think, how am I going to start this? And then you sort of find something that you can work with and think, well, if I start from there, and it all sort of comes together. Yeah. And it's not actually as daunting as it seems. But yeah, probably the Lego camera, because I had to like glue all, like it's not all glued, but it's glued into 6 bits. If you take it apart, you're only left with 6 bricks instead of 200 bricks. But then I had to like Dremel it all out to fit the lens in, and get the screen to work on the back. And
Brilliant. No, that's really cool. I think that's a really good message to end on as well. It's not as daunting as it seems. Okay, we've got time for one more question. Have any of your projects failed spectacularly?
Nothing I've ever completely given up on. I'm trying to think.
Strong message there. Never give up.
I started a project years ago and it just ended up being too difficult. In that years ago there was like a Robo Sapien, like robot that I had. And I had the big one. And they sold like a little miniature version of it that didn't do anything. It was just like a model of it. And I took it all apart to try to get mini motors in it so the little one could do the same as the big one, with the idea that it could follow. But I just never managed to fit everything in the body. There's still a box of all these parts, motors that never quite fitted in.
I feel like watch this space. We'll have you back at the next Tech Connect and we'll have full robot here, I think. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Katie. Big round of applause for Katie. I'm also going to need a pair of those dungarees. I like the fact that they're full Mary Poppins pockets. You're just pulling stuff out of those. You made them. Of course you did. Of course you made them. Brilliant. That's a lesson to us all. So big thank you, Katie. Next up is Woking, who's the CEO and founder of Hi9. Wo's done all sorts. He's a big supporter of our education outreach stuff. He's working with us on some of our programs. The title of his talk, intriguingly enough, is Creating a Different Kind of Online Friend. I'm just going to hand over to Wo now and let him talk you through that. But please give him a big warm welcome, and I'll hand over.
Cool, thanks. I said to Katie, don't make it too awesome, I have to follow you. She said, no, I won't. It's like, oh, cheers, thanks. I'll remember that, Katie. Right, so, my name's Wo. This is my team. We're a Cornish AI company, down here, isn't it? We're creating a different online friend for everyone. I've been in the industry for too many decades. Lots of people already know my story. I won't bore everyone again. But I think a lot of people are just glad I'm getting on with it and doing what my dream always was, which I'll explain in a second. So, we're an AI company, artificial intelligence. We do many different things with many different sectors, public sector, museums, health, education. I put this little video in the drive. Can you press play on it? To show just something we did last week. Well, like you're flicking a switch, and it's like pressing a button, but of course, without actually touching it. It works. How cool is that? Honestly, so that means that you can stop now. Yeah. So before it breaks. Yeah. So that's Flickr. That's part of our touch-free program. This is because of museums. Of course, you can't touch the buttons, and also loads of other different places. So we created an Edge AI model that doesn't connect up to the internet at all. So you can just do that and press the button, and that way all the buttons can work again. And that means museums can be all interactive again. But more than that, we've actually done it so you can do that, and then we've got other gestures like that, like that, like that, like that, like that, like that, right? And we're now, next week, going to be finishing off a one in another museum about an interactive narrative where kids can use hand signals and then interact with it. That way, they're not touching anything. And that's quite important, apparently, nowadays. So, I'm here to talk about this project. So this was a dream of mine. As some of you know, I became obsessed quite a few years back in how technology can help the most disadvantaged. How people, anywhere from the homeless to the elderly, how AI especially can be used to give them access to things. And you can tell I did this half an hour ago, this presentation, so bear with me. This program came on board about 8 months ago to a year. It's a 3-year European social fund project. I have to say that. Everyone who knows about European social fund projects know you have to say that. And it's a full stack service. So this is to reimagine how the citizen interacts with the public sector, non-profits, anyone that they interact with in a very different way. So it's a completely full stack service. This is working with Cornwall Development Company, it's a call center. This is all called FibreHub. There's Connect Cornwall, a brilliant organization that does mentoring for people who are coming from different backgrounds, really helping them to get into work. We're not even getting to work, just actually actualizing them so that the fact that they're ready to at some point. So it isn't really, they call it a training and works program. It's not, it's much more than that. It's rethinking. Smart matching skills and recruitment, about when you're then close to the work, skills and recruitment. This is a recruitment agency that is really great in this field. And there's us, which I just put bot. It's a bit more than that, as you'll see. I want to give a special shout out to Stacey and Judith. It was Stacey at the council who really was thinking up this program, knew about what we were doing and my obsession, and came to us, and we are now where we are today. And she's Debbie. And it's using AI to redefine public and third sector, you see, half an hour ago, users access to information and share data, starting with the most disadvantaged in a way that needs no training or prior knowledge, and with emotional immersion. That's a nice long title. But I'll give an example. So I was off my own dime doing user testing with homeless people. And this is, as I said, part of my obsession. And I noticed that they were using then Messenger, but now it would be WhatsApp, to communicate with each other. Now they were doing this with the local library Wi-Fi. And I went, okay, fine. What we need to do is that using WhatsApp, they fill out a housing application. They use natural language, and then the AI fills out the housing application. There's no reason why this can't be done. We're actually developing it right now. We're getting rid of forms. There's no reason for forms. Actually, collecting information and data has been more important now than it ever has been in history, and we've made it the worst experience at any time in history, right? We are tracked on our GPS and our uses on a phone, but if you want to access a benefit, a 33-page monster comes on you and you get one thing wrong, you are homeless. To these people, bureaucracy is life and death. Nothing I do I fill out means I'm not going to eat or I don't have a house. They have several reams of paper and they get it wrong and that's it. Nothing I do or fill in has that amount of just challenge in my life. And we do this to these people and it's wrong. So we're going to get rid of it. Never been done before in the country or the world. And that's one of my biggest aims. So who's Debbie? She's 50 years old. She's birthday is on October the 14th. She's 5'4". She lives in Campbell. So we have to be here because she needs to work from our office. Son lives with her, other son at university, gets in semi-frequent arguments on Facebook. She is a valuable member of the team. We wouldn't have anything, we wouldn't do anything without her. I'm going to go through a couple of things that are being developed right now, which Debbie will be doing. So one's called the library. This is a knowledge base on information for support, skill training, events in your area, and so much more. We're setting it up so you just email Debbie. Then we use AI to web scrape it and put it into the system. The system then makes it available for people to find out. So the classic one we're doing first of all was events. The amount of time that people who really need access to training events or access to employment or mental health or everything else, leaflets go out. I remember someone at Derby Council turned around and said, we've got 1,500 PDFs on our system. 1,500. And I said, what do you do with that? Okay, we've got 1,500 PDFs on our system. Doesn't mean anything. So people will be able to email over, so we can scrape through the email, but also if they put it in PDF form or Word, we will scrape and put it out. We're also going to use Eventbrite and other APIs in order to make sure that these people know exactly what's going on in the area. And if they've got WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, text, that's where we're starting, they get a push notification that that event is happening in the area because that's what they need. So I'm going to give examples of kind of things we're playing around with. We notice with benefits, we call it the core 4, right? So what is this benefit? Who can apply? How much can I get? And how to apply? That's common amongst dozens and dozens of benefits. So we use a form of ML called classifier, and we're right now, we've got it. That's about 85% on a lot of them. And by having that commonality, where all the benefits are pretty much the same, so I said this, and I won't say it to who, to a big public sector organisation. I said, I really want to work with you. But if you don't want to work with us, that's fine. I'll hack you. I'll scrape your information and I'll get it to them. Now, I'd love for the API that we could do it, but if not, I will, we use a AI that can fill out a PDF, and that PDF will be of the form, let's say of a housing application, and we'll print off and we'll send it. We don't need you. Our client's a user. This has never been done before. When, if you think about it, a homeless person with a data scientist, what can you do? And that's what we're doing. AI, everyone thinks of as this top-down monster. We know this very well because our head data scientist, called Walter, actually is a political refugee from Hong Kong. He has experienced this. He had to flee, thinking for his life, because he saw AI and how it could be abused. We're turning this, of course, Walter was very keen to work with us. We're turning this in the other way around. We're giving AI to the most dispossessed, and we are going to beat the government and the public sector at their own game. They're the ones who are going to be scared because we're giving the most advanced technology that's ever been in a homeless person's hands. So, that's an example of the classifiers. You notice there's commonality between many different benefits. They tend to class it in these separate ways. And so therefore we just use a form of ML in order to get that classification. Then we use what's called a question and answer in order for people just to ask it natural questions and to come back with information that's needed. We also benefit calculator. So there's quite a few out there. But so therefore you can put in your information and then we will tell you what you should expect and how much money you should get. By doing that, we then know what you are after, and then we can then do push notifications and give you more information. Now, you can always be referred to the call center, and they will contact you as a human being. Or if you're having problems, have a mentor actually support you. Or if you're really close to employment, you have someone there. It's never been done like this before. It's a complete full stack, but using AI to fill out the gaps. So Q4 21, so what's coming up right now? We're having a campaign in December called Extra Place. So Extra Place is this. So we've now got the golden database of food banks. There's just no better database of food banks, right? We're putting QR codes in estates so people can go along with a WhatsApp and just scan the QR code. And we're going to do this with an interactive narrative like a treasure hunt. We think of technology very different. So when I'm talking about AI, my first hire was a narrative designer, Dr. Lauren Hayhurst. She's director of Digital Plymouth. Yeah, she is. And she was brilliant. Now, because what we do is create an emotionally immersive experience, Debbie makes you feel like you're actually communicating with something which has emotion. That's really important. It's not a cold bot. Actually, it's something that people like interacting with. It does it with no sort of ego. It doesn't make you feel guilty about filling out housing applications, because things like housing applications make you feel really guilty. You have to put in things of your failures, things that most people wouldn't do, or things that have happened to you, or people have assaulted you. You've got to write all this down. And we're writing it down on forms, and we send it off to someone. Debbie talks you through it. Go, look, do you want to go off for a second and come back because it's particularly emotionally hard time that went through? Then she'll do that. It's a really, really different way of thinking. So we're making this fun because it's going to be an interactive experience, an interactive narrative. We're also going to be doing wooden placemats, which will be of this shape. So extra place is the idea of your Christmas meal. You have an extra dinner plate for someone who is homeless or needs food. And that place is there at your table when you're going to have Christmas dinner. And by doing that, we raise money for food banks, but also get the word out. We're talking to the food banks who are very shocked about us talking to them as a tech company, and we're loving it. One of the biggest problems we found is we thought the information was there and the people just couldn't get to it. The problem is that the actual food banks are really terrible at sharing the information themselves. In fact, loads of organizations are really bad. So we've made a Debbie version of it that the food banks themselves will update the information because they're busy. They don't want to do websites and things like that. So therefore, it's a way for them to share the information is just as important. So Debbie's Voice gets launched on Monday. The team I showed you, that's now doubled in size, by the way. We've just got new people who just joined. We've got a linguist now as well, who's now training to become a computational linguist. And she did the voice. The voice launches on Monday, so you'll be able to hear Debbie. There's something we call Debbie Land, where we'll have YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp, all the different touch points. And on there, you'll be able to hear her. And there'll be a video. Of course, you can't see her. She doesn't like to reveal herself, Debbie. She's quite shy on that way. So there will also be WhatsApp, which is in this quarter, and with what we call Data Remit Plus. So that's just the fact that the way we've done accounts is that you don't have to give over your real information to have an account. A lot of people, these people especially, are very much worried about giving over data because they feel like the benefit agency is going to take things away. So we're completely going to make it to the fact that you cannot identify them. So they can get the support without the identity. Now, the way we're doing it is that once a public sector or an organization then interacts with them, they'll be given a username, and then the person gets given a PIN number, give over the PIN number, and the information then appears there. Then that information is with the public body. I don't want to know who these people are. Right? But I want to make sure that they've got enough information to get it done. We might at some point do that where they put in the information. If we did that, we'd want to do it on blockchain. So we would never know. Okay, so, and that's the anonymous counts, which should be alpha launched by then. So I want to speak about why we're hype. So we've just literally moved in a couple of days ago. And, sorry? Oh. So it's unfortunate, but yay. We've been a virtual team, and so when the pandemic hit, it was absolutely fine. I just carried on normally. And when everyone is not going to an office, I'm moving into an office. I'm moving into this one because it's important. This place is in Camborne. Camborne is a place of just a lot of social issues. This tech place could really help with that. It's in the right place. If this was an office in Truro, I wouldn't have gone. This is in Camborne, which means we can make a difference. We can be of the place. If you noticed, I call myself a Cornish AI company. How many tech companies call themselves of the place? We do. We're family first. We're not family friendly, we're family first. We're really trying to be of place. Tech companies have made so many mistakes in connecting themselves with other places in the world more than their own location. So to us, it's really important. And also because Software Cornwall is here. Okay? And that is really important to us because the amount of things we keep on trying to do with Software Cornwall, and then they contact me, and so therefore now Robert just bugs me. And things are getting done, which is really good. And also because of place of mentoring. A lot of people saying about doing virtual work, that's great. But if you are young from a challenging background, you can't do that. We are excluding a lot of people by working from home, and I made a constant decision to move into office to make sure that doesn't happen. If you're coming from a challenging background and you've got a mum who's a drug abuser, you can't do a Zoom. What about them? So that's what we're doing, okay? Now, also, because of the mission to Mars, we have, I saw you sneak in, something called Office Junior because there's no way to describe it. So Emily's now starting with us, going to Cornwall College, and we met him at, how long ago? 4 years? 3 years ago. And at a workshop where we did a bot, Emily won, incredibly impressive. And then you contacted me and said, you know, very sort of proactive that you really want to get into tech. So she's now starting with us. So it just goes to show the fact that if you come to these tech events, that how you can do it. She's going to become a STEM ambassador. She's going to be teaching AI to children. There is a way of doing it. That's what we think. And the Bubbles, it's called the Bubbles program, isn't it? Is it? Your program. Clusters.
Clusters. Bubbles. Okay, yeah.
You should have called it Bubbles. Right? I just got bubbles down there. Clusters. So retraining people, because we've done this with our linguist, who's now learning NLP and will be a computational linguist. And so therefore, we're really keen for people who know one thing to train and come into tech. And so FibreHub to us is not just an office. What it is, what it represents, what it means to this community is really important to us. And I think it can make a really, really profound effect. So I think that's it. Yeah. So that's me. Thank you.
So I'm taking up from Nikki, whose voice I'm afraid has faltered. Hopefully we've got some questions coming up that I can see, so we can ask you both to have a seat.
There's questions.
So yes. So literally yesterday afternoon, Nikki was saying, we've had to pull out for Rob from Ferrotech, can't make it. We need someone. I said, hang on a second. And he was literally just moving in upstairs. So I raced up the stairs because we're now all at the FibreHub, which is what it's all about. Knocked on his door, walked in, and he put down the box. Well, actually, no, he was connecting up his monitor at the time.
Yeah.
I said, hi, can you help us? And here he is. So literally you can say FibreHub, all the companies working together in one place, and it just happens. I think this is what Toby's kind of thinking about. Things just happen, which is great. So have we got any questions on the slide here for you? We must have. Does Debbie have an acronym? Is Debbie an acronym for something?
No.
No, it's just a name you like. And it was...
No, it was an exhaustive program to get the program right. So we did lots of workshops with people who are in this space. And there's a sort of way we create a persona. So it was an exhaustive, it wasn't just the top of our head. Lauren and now Phoenicia worked really hard on that. It's really important that Debbie's a very, important part of the team.
Yeah.
But she's called Debbie.
Here we go. What are your biggest challenges ahead? What do you reckon? What are your biggest challenges?
Institutions. They don't like us. They really don't. That's the biggest challenge. And we don't have to worry about it, which is why this has never been done before, because always the client has been the council, the council backing this, so this is great, has been the public body. They're not. The way we got the funding sorted. And I think because of the pandemic, they signed every piece of paper because they've never understood what we do, right? Which is great. It sneaked in. I don't think if it hasn't a pandemic, they would have signed it off. People said to us, this wouldn't happen. And it got signed off. So we've managed to get it in.
Benefit. Okay. Did you end up getting the forms politely, or did you have to take them?
We don't need to ask.
Don't need to ask. No, that's true. They're there. You can just take them.
Oh, well,
because you did mention something like that. You'll either work with us or we'll go.
Or we'll just hack it. Yeah. So in some ways, we've started doing the hacking, and the institutions are going, "Oh yeah, can we talk to you?" Right? It's sort of, you don't have to ask permission. When you're as a tech company, like your Instagram or something, you concentrate massively on the user, and you do user testing, and you do beta testing, and you do iterations and things like that. These people have never had that, right? The tech companies treat them with contempt. And I've said this to the tech company, trust me, right? I've been in Google headquarters. I've had these talks. They had wouldn't it be nice? And they send interns, and they have, right? And everyone feels good about themselves. I'm not doing this to feel good. These are users, and they need the best, and they need a service. And that's how I think about them. I'm not doing this to make myself feel good. I'm not doing this to make the world a better place. I'm treating this as a tech company would. This is a market that has not been looked after before, and I'm just voraciously every single day trying to meet their needs. No one's ever done that before. And that's, to me, shocking.
Yep, I get that. How can you hide users' information from the organizations that they need to work with? For example, surely an identity is needed to access the resources.
Up until the point that they do the interaction, we don't need an identity. So I'll give the example of the FibreHub at the call center. So they're going to have, this is in Q1, they're going to have like a web app. So the user then phones them up, and the user says, my username is DuckDuck. I don't know why I said that, but DuckDuck, right? And you type in DuckDuck, and then the person gets sent a PIN number. And then the person, and with the PIN number, it says what you're going to share, the information you're going to share. Then it gives over a PIN number, and then the person gets pulled in that information. But it's still non-identifiable. So we might ask the age of 19, but we'll put it in age group of 18 to 25, because that's the information needed to fill out the form or to get the information. We don't need more than that. But by doing that, these people will feel like better. Now, once they interact with the organization would put in the information in order to do that. Okay? We're desperately trying to make it the fact that you cannot be identifiable with the information, because then everything stops. It just stops. Now, we do this with Twitter. We do this with lots of different things. So why can't we do it with this?
How do you execute user testing research for challenging groups? Do you find empathy mapping, etc., other research techniques, valuable to real user feedback for AI?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So we've got emotional mapping that Lauren has done. So she does dialogue design. And so she actually we've had to create new systems. Dialogue, if you look up on Amazon, dialogue design, if you think of the bots, there's nothing out there. Mad, right? And so she's going to be writing a book with Phoenicia. We're actually writing the book on how to do this, which is bad. You've also got to think of, I mean, I didn't mention this, there's so much we can talk about it, is that we are going to next year start talking to the tech companies. The tech companies treat these users with contempt, and the use of language is despicable. And I'll give a classic example. The housing application has on it, what is your address? Really? So what we say is, where do you live? Now, all forms should say that, and they shouldn't say address, because millions of people in this country are either transitory or homeless, and they don't have one. We should, as an organization and as a discipline, change that to where do you live? And that brings them in. We talk about inclusive language all the time. We talk about diversity, and we don't talk about these people.
What are the best ways to get involved with the work you're doing?
Contact me. You know, Emily did, and now she's our office junior, right? Contact me. As Robert knows, right? You have to bug me sometimes, right? As everyone knows, because I can get really busy. But on my team, I've got a team now, right? So I'm starting to get bandwidth. Yeah, contact me. Right? How, you know, I can show you different ways you can get involved. There are many different projects. It's a massive field that we've only just scratched. If people want to get involved, we're very open. We're not very proprietary on this.
I would say the answer to that question is the same thing for all things, because I get asked this quite often, not just specifically about i9, but people ask me, how do I get involved with the companies in Software Cornwall? I said, well, the information of the companies in Software Cornwall is on the website. Just call them.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I got where I am now, exactly the same way, and other people as well. It's become involved. This is a community. Software Cornwall, this is what I like about it. It is the community, and we're all very chatty, happy people generally. You can approach us and people will happily guide you.
And the way we talk is different. So I desperately am getting better and better at not using techie language, in talking in a way that is approachable. Now, and as I said, we're Cornish, we're family first, right? We've got a whole culture thing. It's a big, huge stack. And we are now female majority. Our CTO is female. In fact, and actually pay is majority, the women are more than the men on average. We didn't go out to do that. I didn't go out to do that. I just created a culture of a company and that happened. Now, I'm not, so, you know, I've done women in tech things and things like that, and I didn't purposely did that. I just changed the culture of the company and then that started to happen. So all I'm saying is the fact that by dealing with these users, and also this is another thing, there's so many positives, and I was saying this to Samson, look, if you build something that a homeless person or someone with an educational challenge can use, you built something that everyone can use. If anyone can use it, everyone can use it. But no, what they do is they get 20-somethings in Shoreditch, and they do user testing with them, right? No, get your mum, right? If your mum can use it, then everyone can use it. And you're testing with the wrong people. You miss about 20 to 30% of the population. And you continually do this, right? And so Robert knows my rants. This is just many, many different rants. And I tell them this, right? And they look at me and go, oh, yeah. And it's like, yeah. So.
Yeah. It's also about testing it here in Cornwall. You hear about smart cities all the time, and everyone goes, smart cities, 5G, and thinking, we're never going to get 5G. I can barely get 4G down here. And smart cities, how's it going to help with a field? It's the country lanes. I was talking to Katie earlier, just saying the electric car she's got follows the white lines for automatic driving. You drive around here, how many white lines do you see? It's like, it doesn't work.
So, and also this thing of we have to be like city light, right? You build it here, the market is enormous. My competition is not Microsoft. My competition is with Sam, who's from North Africa. She turned around and said, oh, we could do this in Algeria, right? I'm not thinking New York. I'm thinking the rest of the damn world, right? That's a massive market. Now, you build it in Cornwall, you've got that. Don't sell it to London. That bloody place is dying, right? Build it here and you can sell it to the world.
Love your citizen AI, that's what I said. Can you share any other examples of citizen AI you've seen around the world?
A really, really good one I love. It's a London one where what they did is that you can take a picture of your tenancy agreement, and what it does is then web crawl over, does some AI, then pulls in the statutes, right, next to it. Now, then you can ask it a question, so it's question and answering, and then it will come back with an answer. Not just the answer, but what is legal. And you can email that to your landlord, right? It's really powerful, right? And what he found was 80% of all landlord tenancy agreements has been downloaded from one site, right? But it meant it put the power back into the tenant. It's got a pseudo lawyer, right? So when you send the email because of something, you actually quote the law in the email to the landlord.
I like the sound of that.
I know, it's brilliant, that one.
That's a good one. How did you get started? Bootstrap, funding, grants?
Bootstrap, it came from a hack space I was helping to run in Penzance, and I went around all the local schools and got their old computers, and you look, let's build your own computer. So we took them apart and build your own computer. And I lived my little old middle-class tech bubble, and there was 220 people signed up, and most of them people who were on benefits, because the benefits were moving online and they didn't have a computer. And I went, this is mad. So I just phoned up DWP and said, can I do user testing in a job centre as people walk in? And they went, no one's asked that, right? Okay, so I literally did that. And I went to old people's home, and I went to sheltered accommodation, and I went to homeless shelters, and I just kept on asking. And I got maybe $1,000 from someone, and even though I'd spent £10,000, and it became an obsession. And I was like, no one's doing user testing, treating them as users. They treated them as, oh, I'm going to tell my friends at a dinner party that I helped the poors, right? And it just started to make me angry. And as you were talking about what drives you as an engineer, it's frustration, right? You're saying you fix a problem, you're clearly right, but I find it's frustration. For me, it's anger and frustration. This isn't good enough, and these people deserve the best. And so I started to do so much user testing and learning and listening and understanding.
I get frustrated with some forms you see online, and you're using something and it doesn't go where you think it should. And if I'm feeling about that, I can't imagine how some of these people who are not savvy.
And you won't eat or you're homeless if you get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I saw a form the other day, which was just the best. So this was a form that was paper with a URL link on it.
Yeah. Okay, as a tech company business, how are you turning over profit to sustain yourselves? What is the business model, or what funding do you receive?
I burned through a lot of my own savings, right? I won't tell you the number. My wife hardly knows the number. I burnt through a lot of my own savings. I put a lot into. I got rid of the last company. It became an obsession. It makes bootstrap as much as you can. I was moving down this direction anyway, and then that grant came across, which sort of, accelerated it. But we were starting to create things. I was starting to create things by myself anyway. So yeah, try and bootstrap, because I'm really worried about this. We still try and operate as a bootstrap, even though we've got this fund, because you can get fat and lazy and then it all just disappears. In some ways, funding can destroy you. So just be really, we're in Cornwall, I shouldn't have said that maybe, but it can do.
Paul asks, what transformer models did you use with Debbie?
Paul.
Paul Smith, there.
Have you heard of Hugging Face?
Yes.
Use that.
Yeah, I've used that.
I think they're the most important AI company, right? I became aware of them about 6 months, 8 months ago. Okay, they are acceleratingly really fast. It's a place where you have loads of libraries all in one place, right? The community's brilliant. They've moved over to they've got transformers now, right? And it's a really great in to start doing. And they've got brilliant new developer support and training program. And next week, literally, they're talking about transformers. Hugging Face. I just say to everyone, Hugging Face. So all the libraries are on there. So you use the different libraries and you can try different libraries and things like that. I'm getting a bit techie, right? But it's a great place to go. No, we're doing our own. We're doing a mix of our own. But Hugging Face is just brilliant.
How did you get into AI and the work you do?
AI, well, when people say AI, it's been around for like 50, 60 years. Neural networks has only been around, Geoffrey Hinton has been banging on about this for 40 years, but AI, what we know as AI nowadays, has only been around since about 2013. It's really new. And when I started doing user testing, I sort of started to play around with AI, and AI reduces complexity. And what these people have got is complexity. So therefore, it was a no-brainer. And so I learned AI because it reduced complexity, and then that's how I got into it.
How far do you believe AI can enhance those who are disadvantaged?
I want to terrify the government. I want an asymmetrical warfare on knowledge and data that the government, because when I was talking about landlords tenancy agreements, right? I want the form filled in. So there's two things which, again, so what's my threat organizations is that there's the form and the questions, and there is the way you fill out the form to get the benefit, right? What we're going to do is the way you fill out Debbie will tell you what you need to do to game the system, because there is a game. There just is, right? And these people don't know it exists, right? And when I tell them, they're going like, I didn't know there was a game. Well, we're going to do that. Well, the government's going to have to change, because all of a sudden they play this little game of little questions that trip you up, right? Debbie's going to turn around and go, no, this is how you fill it in to win that game. And this is the piece of legislation you can quote if they try and stop you, right? Now, what are you going to do? Let's be honest, right? Let's be transparent. Try that, government, right? And so that is what I'm hoping is to change the relationship.
What organizations, government departments organizations and government departments do to make our lives easier?
Stop acting like a tech company. The only time someone shouted at me was someone from the government. So when I talk like this, it was amazing. So I was at Google campus, and this woman was from the citizen, there was digital group or something, right? And I said this, and she turned around and said, you can't do that. I said, why? We do that. I said, why? So I said, because I always say this, and there was another, I won't say local organization I said this to. I turned around and said, stop being a tech company, just API, right? Just create APIs and we'll do all the rest, right? The tech industry will just do the rest. Government should just be APIs. Now, they've done it with VAT and tax, as you can see with your zero. You can do it with everything else, right? But no, they don't want to. So they want to be the tech, the vertical. Government, now be the government, right? Get out the way. Now, for instance, they're coming up with a government app. And someone said, aren't you scared? I said, no, right? Has anyone used the NHS app? So, because I'm going to do things like put smart speakers near where homeless people in bus shelters, right? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to where they are. So all I want from the government is to get out the damn way. But I will say this, their site's really good. It's really easy to scrape. Just keep that.
How did you decide on Debbie's personality or attributes? Why was it important?
Lauren would be the one to talk to you about that. So she does that narrative design, and she does emotional mapping. She was the first hire and the most important hire. Lots of workshops, lots of huge notes, lots of emotional mapping. And that's Lauren. No, I wouldn't be the one I would be doing a disservice.
What did you do before all of this?
Run tech companies off and on, doing so one of the reasons I came to this is I did really well in the City of London, doing this sort of tech platform for executives with my wife down here. And it was going really well. And we just borrowed a lot of money next to the house, and we just developed whole new platforms which were going gangbusters. We were doing car sharing online before Uber, right, with JP Morgan and UBS, right? We were doing all this, and the crash happened. And our mortgage was with Northern Rock. And my wife became very ill. And our clients were Lehman Brothers and AIG. So I'm watching the news, and our whole world disappeared. And it got so bad that we had a notice on our door that we had 12 days before we were made homeless. And all of a sudden, I was in that world very quickly from being a world of great comfort. My wife was really ill. She's got quite a few health challenges. I'm still some part-time carer for her right now. And she was helping me run the company, phenomenal businesswoman. And so I know that you, all of us, we could be that person in a few days. Right? Who thought? I mean, AIG was going to be the first $1 trillion company. And I phoned them up and I said, oh, can you pay our £20,000 bill? And said, I don't know whether we can pay your bill. It can happen to anyone. And it happened to me. And it wasn't the first time. My parents, who did very well, became bankrupt. And my mum was on benefits, single mother. I went from private school to that. Oh, thank God.
They say if it runs.
Until 4 o'clock, so apologies.
They say if it lasts longer than 10 seconds. Thanks, Toby. Okay, that was supposed to be your last question, but I think this one, I have to ask you this. What is the biggest lesson you have learnt from your target users, for Debbie or otherwise? What's the biggest lesson?
I don't patronise them, right? Our job is not to help them, right? If they make bad decisions and they keep on making bad decisions, it's their choice. But they've got really bad platforms and services to make good decisions. That's all I do. I'm not a saviour. I'm not saving them, right? I'm creating a service by which it will make them make better things, choices.
Better futures for them.
Yeah, it's not up to me to save them.
Thank you very much, Wade.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, and big thanks to Rob for picking up the Q&A. You can hear my voice is on its way out. So I'm going to rapidly introduce our next speaker, Max Oates. Matt is studying for an MSc at Falmouth University in Games, and has developed firstly co-founded a company called Meteorite Media, who have developed a game, and Matt's going to talk to you a little bit about that and the Transfusion Award that the game has gone through. So I'm going to hand over to Matt. Please give him a warm welcome.
Cool, thanks. I suppose to probably start off by saying, absolutely amazing presentation so far. I hope I can do just a good enough job. Right, so hello everyone. My name is Max. I said I'm the sole programmer and technical designer for Meteorite Media. And today I'm basically here to talk about our journey through Meteorite Media's journey through Transfuser, what we've learned from it, and how we've used it to develop our game, Kai's Veil. So, Kai's Veil is a third-person adventure game set in a prehistoric world where you play as Kaya, who is set out to go on a journey to find her lost tribe alongside with her dinosaur companion, Apollo. As you can see from the video here, you can give Apollo various commands to solve environmental puzzles while also riding him to make traversing the level easier. All of this has been made in Unity using C#, and the models and sound effects have been made using other software such as Wise and Maya Indie. This is Kai's Veil for us has been a passion project that started way back in our third year of university, where the goal was and still is to reawaken the childhood dream of having a pet dinosaur. Exactly. Let's go. Alongside it, we wanted to make companionship our core experience with this game, as we wanted to try and create a bond between the player and Apollo. In addition, more recently, in recent months, we've also decided to see if we can heighten empathy in the player. So, our current team is made up of 5 in-house members, all of whom have different disciplines. They all have experience in agile development and have training in indie game development. I want to talk a little bit about communication in small teams. As I said, due to us being a small team, we've had to fill multiple roles at times, which sometimes doesn't always go well and can have a bit of an impact on communication. However, for us, I found that communication for us has always gone really well. And I believe it's due to us all having interest in different areas of game development, be it art, music, design, mechanics, etc. We're always there as a team brainstorming ideas, trying to figure out how to take this game further. If we're say stuck on how we should take a part of an area of the game further, we'll ask for help from one another. And of course, when we're working on an iteration of an asset, we'll ask each other for feedback on how we can improve it further and keep it in the style of the game. Also from a programmer, talk about a bit of communication or explaining stuff from a programmer's perspective. From what I've noticed is that when you're trying to explain how something, teach people how team members how something works, or show them a system or feature that you've created, I found that's been best to use to be quite brief, not be very technical. I also found that's best to actually demonstrate your work rather than going in depth and showing how the code works. As from my own experience, as excited as I am to show off my 100 lines of code, most of the team members really don't want to see that. In fact, a bit of a story from how I found to demo your work being quite effective is that when I had to, unfortunately I couldn't attend one of our meetings, milestone meetings, so I had to record a video of me explaining what I've done this month. When I got back and I asked, hey, how did it go? Was the video good? They all said, oh yeah, the video was great. It was very easy to understand. In fact, one of the artists said, I'm very glad we didn't see any code because I was worried I wouldn't understand it. Yeah. So while I'm talking about development and everything, I will now talk about Transfuser. So Transfuser is an annual competition that's run and hosted by the UK Games Fund, but where, unlike the UK Games Fund, where their target audience is almost everyone, in the goal to give everyone the chance to start their own business, or game studio in this case, instead Transfuser focuses specifically on graduates to give them the chance to start their own game studio or simply take an idea further. Successful groups that make it onto the competition will have 3 months over the summer to develop their idea, to develop a prototype of their idea. During this, they'll be given training on how to start and run their own studio. As I said, and forgot to mention, this training is provided by industry professionals. But come the end of September, you'll have to pitch your prototype to the UK Games Fund. During this event, the UK Games Fund and Transfuser will be hosting their proto-play event, where people will be able to try out your prototype and give you feedback accordingly. If you are to successfully win the Transfuser, you'll be given up to £20,000 to help bring the dream of starting your own game studio to a reality. Now, in terms of our journey, since we only had 3 months to develop our prototype, we had to be very careful about scope and try not to reach feature creep. But fortunately, since this was a third-year group project, we had a pretty good starting base, even though we had to leave some assets behind. Throughout this journey, we developed our specialist skills. For example, the artist created a gorgeous art style and amazing promotional material that we could use. Our team leader developed his level design skills and business skills. Our sound designer created realistic environmental animal audio, as well as improving his technical skills as he implemented the system that would call those sound effects. And of course, me as the programmer and technical designer, I took my code further by improving the gameplay mechanics, the custom tools, and of course, polishing Apollo's AI to make him better. In addition, I've given Apollo 2 new features, such as an expression system, which uses emojis to communicate to the player when he is annoyed, angry, or just simply bored, and also curious inside of that. And also, I gave him added on interactions to allow him to interact with specific parts of the environment. For example, if he wandered up to a river, he would begin to fish and try and find a prehistoric fish to eat. Okay. So, what's next? Oh, actually, no, I got to go back because I forgot some things. As I said, we all good time management skills. Yes, we had to improve our time management skills to ensure, as meeting deadlines was always mandatory, so we could continue in the competition. However, time management wasn't the only thing we had to improve on, as we needed to also get very good at adapting, as naturally external events would get in the way, causing us to scrap some ideas and focus on the area of the game that really mattered to the core experience. So now on to what's next. So originally I was going to talk about this slide in the context of what we might do if we win Transducer. However, on Monday, I'm very happy to say that it was announced that we were one of 3 groups to win Transducer. So now, thank you. So now I'll be talking about this in the context of what we actually plan to do. So yes, now that we have won, we plan to use this funding to create a more refined version of our game. More refined, I mean, refined version of this prototype. But in this case, what I'm specifically talking about is that we intend to create a vertical slice, which is about a third of what we intend the actual game of Kai's Veil to look like. This vertical slice would contain more mechanics, more ways to interact with Apollo, and of course, more dinosaurs. In addition to this, we hope to go to events such as UK EGX and Develop Brighton to promote our idea further and to help build more of an audience. In addition, we hope to also find a publisher that can provide us with funding and marketing to make Kai's Veil a success for many to enjoy. In addition to this, I also want to say that I'm currently doing an MSc in AI. I hope to apply these skills to Kai's Veil. For example, I hope to create I hope to use flocking AI to create realistic herds of dinosaurs that wander throughout the environment and react accordingly if Kai gets too close to them. In addition, I also want to use these newfound skills to improve Apollo further and to make him just a more fun and lovable companion. In addition to that, 2 other members are also doing masters, one in design, or specifically game design and technical design, and the other doing a master's in art. This is all in the hopes, and they too hope to use their newfound skills to improve the game further. To end off this talk, I'll now show off a short trailer of Kai's Veil. This is also the same one we used when pitching to Transducer.
Where are you? Come on, buddy. The sun's up. This river is the lifeblood of the forest. It spans the very reaches of lands, giving her energy to all she touches. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to be able to communicate with Apollo easier than the rest of the tribe. Charge! The Whisperers were tasked with spreading their teachings first to their own tribe, then across the land. All right, let's go.
Thanks for watching. So you can find us all on different social medias. Unfortunately, I've just been told, that's cool, yeah, if you use the QR code, that'll take you to our itch page where you can actually find a demo of the game to play. I have been informed that unfortunately recently, I think yesterday the email has changed. So instead of being contact@meteormedia@gmail, it's actually contact@meteormedia.com, for those who want to know. Yes, so that's pretty much me. Is there any kind of questions?
Thank you so much, Max. Big round of applause again, Max. And you got through. That's absolutely amazing. You kept that one very, very quiet, because when we spoke, Max was going through the Transducer Award and hoping to win this grant. So it's really, really great to hear that success story. And I think you'll all agree, it looks beautiful. And we've actually had a question already saying, how do you approach character design and graphics? And what are your starting steps?
That's probably more of a question for our artist Kimmy, since she invented the art style we're using. I think, if I was going to tell us our mind, we use quite a bit of inspiration in terms of design characters and graphics. I think what we wanted to really aim for, as we all agreed that we really want to aim for the same art style that Legend of Zelda Wind Waker uses, or Breath of the Wild, so a very simplistic but also very stylish kind of art style that people that's basically stands the test of time. As I mean, like Wind Waker was made in 2003, and even now people say it's beautiful and it's relevant. So no part of it looks terrible.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I was a big fan of Legend of Zelda, but mine was the Ocarina of Time on the N64, so it's a little bit before that time, but can definitely see some of the style inspirations there. What platforms are you planning to release the game on? Feels like it would work well on a mobile game or a VR experience.
Actually, a VR, a bit of an interesting one. We haven't mobile. In terms of sort of mobile, we are hoping to actually use it on Switch. We're hoping that we could actually get a Switch because it feels like it's just that type of game that could that would work really well on Switch. But at the moment, we're mainly aiming for PC because that's quite the sort of standard market. I think it's because of I suppose for a bit of background, because because of one of the inspiration for this game was The Last Guardian, which was PS4 exclusive, and we were like, well, not a lot since PC is like the most highest platform or most top used platform when it comes to gaming. We realized, well, not a lot of people got to experience The Last Guardian, so we want to have a go at trying to introduce companionship to PC gaming in that good way.
Brilliant, thank you. What do you plan to turn this into a?
Yeah, one of those big multiplayer online RPGs, role-playing games. Yeah,
RPG.
No, we're too small of a team. We're too small of a team to really do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure they'll probably kill us if we try to do that, because it's just how big it is. But I mean, we do hope to have some feeling of openness. We hope for the world that you're in to actually feel quite open and give you the feeling to explore, and the call of adventure almost.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Part of the fun is exploring the map and finding all the quests. Yeah. What are your future plans in games design?
As for me, I hope to continue working with Meteor Media to make this game further. Either that, or if I leave, I hope to perhaps go solo and try new ideas. But in terms of what I do, I guess I'll just plan to improve my skills really and just get better at them. But of course, programming first, as that's kind of what I mainly do.
That leads really nicely into this question from Joseph. What advice would you give to other teams wanting to apply to transfusion?
Also, I'd just say, just go for it. Really, if you have, I'd very suggest having an idea first. That being said, one of our teams at university did actually, I think, try to pitch themselves as a team. So I think it could be possible to try and get into Fuser that way. But I mean, I'd say let's go for it. If you have an idea by yourself and you're by yourself, that's fine, because Transfuser will try to put you into teams anyway. So I'd say just go for it. If you've got an idea and you think it's great, then hey, by all means, give it a shot.
Yeah, as Katie said earlier, just start making. US millennials us millennial / Generation Z types, sorry, strange formatting, are all about purpose-driven first. What's the big picture? Will it solve some of our biggest societal issues, or do we need a break?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good question. I think we have discussed this before. I don't know if we're necessarily looking to talk about any kind of society. I mean, we definitely do have a story where we hope for everyone to enjoy and to get some thing about it. But I suppose you could say companionship is sort of what we'd be giving to like Gen Zs or millennials. It's a virtual friend and pet that you're happy to be with. I mean, every person who's played our game has been desperately asking us to include the ability to pat Apollo, like or just interact with him. So I suppose it could be we're perhaps providing a virtual pet in a way for people to be with.
Yeah. The modern day Tamagotchi for anybody who had a few of those and killed off a few. What's the strategy for approaching publishing companies?
I think it's kind of more of a question for our team leader, but I think the kind of strategy is mainly to approach them. Mainly to approach them at events, which has actually shown some success. We've managed to actually talk to publishers or hold. I get a chance to talk to them some of which have seemed interested in our idea, so that could lead somewhere pretty well. But at the moment, I think it simply is just getting in contact through email or just bumping into them by talking and exchanging business cards to get their interest. I think it's made quite simple in that regard at the moment.
Yeah, so lots of networking.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, which element of game design would you say is the hardest to comprehend and work with?
I suppose it's user experience, because there have been multiple. Because I think one of the biggest problems that we especially experienced back in the third year version of this was trying to get people to notice things or to go in the direction we want them to. I think because I think we had this treehouse where you had to climb up to get placing this key to unlock a bridge. And we got so many responses saying, we can't get over the bridge, we can't get over the bridge, what do we do? I said, there's a giant tree right here, how do you miss that? It's right in front of you. So yeah, I think trying like player guidance and sort of user experience is probably the hardest trying to design.
Brilliant. And then final question, what games have you played that have inspired you?
All the Team Ico games, so Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardians, those were, I mean, in terms of not just videos, I mean, they were like the biggest inspiration, especially in their design techniques, which was unique minimalism with unique mechanics. I mean, that pretty much summed up my inspiration, but I think there's also things like Zelda games, like I said, Wind Waker, Breath of the Wild, quite a few indie games as well. I think there's a other game coming out called Paleo Pines that's seems to be quite good. There's also a few other games such as not the Lone Dark, A Short Hike, which is about climbing and making climb up a mountain and trying to reach the top to I think call your parents. And it's probably not, but it's a fun game. It actually does have a bit of tint about mental health to it actually, and trying to overcome it. And I think there's also Pathless actually, which is also a game about companionship and exploring this forbidden, unknown environment filled with dangers and everything. But yeah, I think there's like a lot of both AAA, but also mainly indie games that focus on companionship and exploration. I mean, that's my inspiration.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us, and big congratulations again. Really, really well done.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we've got 15 minutes left before we wrap up, and we're going to just talk you through, I'm going to be very quick on this one actually. Over the summer, we sent out a community survey, not just for our members, but for the wider tech community in Cornwall as well, to understand some of their pain points. We asked some of the questions. Also, this followed one of the Tech Southwest, hi Dan, surveys as well that came out earlier in the year to understand the pain points of the whole Southwest as a whole. And so we really want to zoom in on Cornwall and say, okay, how can we support Cornwall and what can we do to help? So I want to run you through some of the more interesting results of those. And as well as kind of understanding demographics and everything else, and we will hopefully sort of publish this report, we wanted to understand the job roles and functions of the people that are working in Cornwall. And this has shown a really interesting transition over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. And what this, we left this as a free text field, and the job roles show that basically everybody is wearing about 75 hats. Now, we are a very startup community in Cornwall. There are a lot of very small to medium businesses. And this was so interesting because it kind of removes the divide between, okay, I am a tech lead, or I am a software developer, I am a CEO, this is my job role. And actually everybody's doing a lot of jobs. And I think this is where perhaps some of our pain points come from. And just understanding sort of the size of some of the companies that responded as well has been really interesting with this. So we then asked kind of companies to describe the core of what their company does. And again, we've got a few that kind of said, yeah, we're bespoke software development. Some of us are B2B, B2C. This kind of filtered into that graphic that I showed you on the earlier slides of actually how we kind of categorize some of the companies that are in Cornwall. And for a software Cornwall, this kind of helps us actually understand, okay, what are the industries you guys are operating in? Are we doing enough to support the companies that actually class themselves as tech companies? Because it's not all just about software anymore. It's actually so many other companies rely on software as a core, or they have digital backends and technical systems they need support on, but it might not be a traditional tech or software company. So this is really interesting. We then kind of touched on the industry. So trying to understand the business that companies actually operating in and what industry they focus on. And what this has kind of said to us is we should try and lead on a bit more collaboration with industries outside of tech in Cornwall. We do a little bit of this already, but actually kind of how can we help our members reach new industries inside of Cornwall and outside of Cornwall as well, and to kind of help them reach new markets. A real growth sector with this was health and wellness. And certainly in Cornwall, this has become a kind of growing sector, perhaps because of our lifestyle down here, that we can be kind of healthy and well as well. But we kind of saw from that earlier slide that also sustainability is on the growth. IoT and cyber is also on the growth as well. So this kind of helps us give that measure of those sorts of things. Now, three things we really want to know is how companies recruit, how they train their staff, and then how they, what their ambitions for growth. And this is a really, really interesting one. So most of the respondents to the survey employed less than 20 people. And of those companies, none of them had an in-house recruiter. Everyone over 20 people employed had someone who did in-house recruitment or worked with an external agency to do that. We know from the Tech Southwest survey and from our own data that recruitment and developing staff is the biggest pain point. And yet there's this real gap between, okay, it's usually coming back to those job titles at the beginning. Someone with the job title operations is responsible for all of your recruitment, all of your internal, all of your training your staff, and is also trying to lead teams and do everything else. So this was a real eye-opener for us of, okay, yes, we advertise jobs on our jobs board, we have a CV bank and we're doing lots of things, but what actually else can we do to make sure that we can support those small to medium companies who perhaps aren't employing somebody full-time to do this? Are you perhaps falling through the gaps, and where are those bits of support that we can offer? And it's something that we don't know the answer to yet. We are hoping to do some focus groups on stuff like this. And I'm interested kind of really in your feedback. I was going to have some post-it notes, but I've misplaced them. But I am going to be hanging around afterwards and just kind of understanding, okay, what are the other things companies are doing to try and recruit? How are you finding staff? How are you attracting talent? And what are your biggest pain points? Because this has come up time and time again, and it seems to have got more and more over the last 10 years or so. Understand how those companies currently recruit as well. Word of mouth seems to be the biggest, and certainly in Cornwall, it's a really great network here. There's a lot happening word of mouth, but we are also hearing that the housing crisis is limiting recruitment in Cornwall. We spoke to a member recently who said that they've recruited somebody who wants to move into the area, really great person. They've intended on moving down, but they can't even find anywhere to rent because the housing crisis in Cornwall is stopping renters trying to rent anywhere. As soon as a house is advertised, it's snapped up straight away. And so this is not only a problem for recruitment within Cornwall, but for people trying to move into the area, these skills coming in, we've got a real blocker. And whilst we're in this remote world, obviously we heard from Woe earlier, actually people do want still that physical contact to be able to have those conversations in an office or solve those problems. And there's always going to be room for remote, I think, but then also having that face-to-face contact is still of importance to our members. So I thought that was quite interesting. I've picked out a couple of bits on staff development here. What was really amazing is pretty much all the companies says, yeah, we do loads of stuff on staff development. Mentoring comes up time and time again here, and I've highlighted a few key points. And a lot of companies also have dedicated training teams internally, which is awesome. There's one business that they said they offer unlimited volunteering days. We want to hear from you. We've got plenty of things that we can get you volunteering on. But all of those kind of on-the-job training and those leadership skills and all the things that kind of feed into those roles are super important as well. And it's really, really great to see that training and development is really important to members of Software Cornwall. So the biggest barriers to growth, this pretty much directly reflects the Tech Southwest report as well, which said that access to the right talent was the biggest barrier, followed by access to finance, the economic conditions, access to markets, and availability of business support. We are very fortunate in Cornwall. If availability of business support is a blocker for you, please come and talk to us. We started mapping out just some of the programs in Cornwall, and within about a week, I had 75 programs in a spreadsheet, and I've probably got about 50 more to add. There is so much support here because the funding we've received and some of the support we've received. If this is a blocker for you, please come and talk to us, because if we can't help you, we know that one of our friends will be able to. And that's not just within Cornwall, but we've got the Southwest as well. And there's also the likes of Tech Nation and all the Innovate UK stuff, and there's grants coming in. So if that is a blocker, come and talk to us. So this is kind of, I'm going to sort of finish on these last bits, but we offer kind of all of our Mission to Mars programs. We want to get kids into tech and show them that there's kind of a place for everybody in tech. And we ask them whether they're aware of the work that Software Cornwall does in schools to support young people and find career pathways into tech. And it was really, really awesome because most of them said, yeah, we're aware. We're aware of what you do, which is really, really great. It means the message is getting out there. Software Cornwall is seen as someone that is going into schools and helping young people find their way. And we're always kind of looking for support to kind of deliver those programs. We then asked the same question, but about our employer-led skills program and our business clusters / gateway to tech program, which we're going to hear more about in a little while. And about half respondents said, yeah, they've sort of heard of it, but perhaps they'd like to know more. So I'll hand over to Rob shortly. He'll talk about business clusters. But the employer-led skills is a really interesting one because we can ultimately help your company find trainers to support the training developments you need within your business. So, and this doesn't have to be particular to a software language or anything like that. It can be agile training, leadership, and we've delivered all sorts. And we've got some BDD training coming up in February, the face-to-face training at the FibreHub. Kaylee will be the person to speak to if you want to get yourself booked up. That I think actually places are filling up quite quickly. But also, if you've got other training needs, do come and talk to us because we've got a whole prospectus of trainers. We've worked with them, and thanks to our work with Agile on the Beach, some of them are really, really amazing global speakers and all sorts. So we really can support your business there as well. And I wanted to just show you this one before I hand over to Rob. I asked the question, what does a successful tech cluster in Cornwall look like in the next 5 to 10 years? It's quite an ambitious question, I appreciate. But it was really, really nice because a lot of it was about growth. It was about jobs creation. It was all the things that we're here trying to kind of promote and trying to support. Somebody said leader in environmental sciences and technology, which I think is really important. I think sustainability could be huge for Cornwall. We've got a huge amount of renewables. There's investment here, but actually there's very few renewable sort of clean tech companies down here that actually this could be a real growth area. There's definitely opportunity and funding to do that. Somebody else said it looks like a connected, inclusive and supportive and caring community and world-changing. Comes back to that ambition that we touched on earlier. We want to be world-changing. So we've closed the survey now. There was a £50 Amazon voucher, which already has been given out to a person who was randomly chosen in the summer. But we're still interested in kind of getting more on this. And if this is something you're particularly passionate about or you want to just share your knowledge with us, either you can jump into the survey and complete it or come and talk to one of the team. We'd love to have kind of some more data on this. And then as we work out kind of what our plan is for the next 10 years, having been here for 10 years already, we want to know actually the ambitions of the companies here for the next 10 years and how we can support them. So I'm going to stick around. Obviously, if you're one of our members, we're also in Slack. And as Robert says, you can pick up the phone, like drop us an email. We're a super friendly bunch. We're here to talk to you guys and listen. So please just give us your feedback. And I'm going to hand over to Rob now. He's going to talk to you a little bit about how we're helping adults career switch into tech.
Right, going by my schedule, I reckon I've got -3 minutes to do this. So this will be rather a quick talk, I'm afraid. So yeah, business clusters. As Woe said for his project, Business Clusters project is partially funded by the European Social Fund. So this is a partially funded project, where the rest of the partial comes from, I'll explain in a minute. We have to say that. So the whole idea of Business Clusters is not just our program, it's there's 7 other categories as well. It's to develop a new approach to skills and training in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. Isles of Scilly is important. I actually went over there and did an event for Business Clusters 3 weeks ago. Fortunately, the weather was beautiful as opposed to what we were experiencing the last couple of days, so I actually had a really good time. And the training has to be, or the approach has to be accessible and industry relevant and led by employers, so the companies. So, as I say, it's a consortium of industries delivering business clusters to target business sectors and areas of skill provision. The other areas you can see are listed there. There's a whole range of different industries. We are basically software. So that's what we're aiming at, software. So we currently do 2 programs in Software Cornwall. Employer-led skills has already been mentioned. That's Kaylee's project. So that's taking staff who are already in employment and improving their prospects within the company. So whether they are learning new skills to do the current job they have better or learning new skills to actually be promoted. Business clusters, and we're calling our part of it the gateway into tech, is bringing new skills from outside of the industry. So taking people who already have working practice skills and knowledge and then training them up to be able to work in the tech industry. So we're not taking, say, students, who are just coming out of university. We want people who really know how to work and are already very talented people, but want to change. So what the skills program has to do is we have to engage with small businesses in skills development. When I say small businesses, they must have fewer than 250 employees, not so difficult to find that in Cornwall, have a turnover of less than 200,000 euros, 200,000 euros per year, and also have a fairly small de minimis state aid over the last 3 years as well. So what we must do is understand what skills companies need staff to have if they were to join them. Now, we're not talking about training people in terms of a degree or 2 or 3 years of training. That's not feasible or not possible. The program only lasts until July 2023 anyway. So it's much shorter term training, but can we give them very directed training or point them to very directed training that makes them really useful? Remember, they're already bringing into the companies useful skills. So we need then to create the program and work out how we're going to deliver that as well. So we can provide access to learning platforms. We personally won't know all the skills to do that. Provide the networking, so events like this, and I know some of the people who are doing the clusters with me at the moment are actually watching online. So provide the networking, the opportunity to meet other people. It's by networking and meeting people, it's how you get the job. As I alluded to earlier, that's how I got here. And other opportunities to facilitate in joining the industry. By networking, you might meet your employer. And I know that Jordan Barkway, who did a mission to Mars with us some years ago, and Emily actually, who's here with WOE, that's how they found their jobs. They came along to an event and met their current future employer. And supporting work experience and placements. The companies that are going I need to join in with clusters, supporting placements. The placements is the important thing for what we're doing. We're trying to then match these experienced people who are then going to be learning skills that have been directed by the employers themselves for the right training, and then give them a placement in these companies. So it's a progressive thing. The whole point of the program is to engage with companies in training. So as the Tech Southwest and our survey have alluded to, finding the right people is the hardest thing, but also, as been highlighted, is that a lot of companies don't provide the experience. So they're poaching staff from everywhere else, as opposed to maybe building up the support from inside. But what we're trying to do is providing people who have highly experienced skills and knowledge that is useful already to the company, but then providing them some work skills to get them going straight away. So the candidates who are I'm kind of looking for, they have to be Cornish residents. It's a Cornwall program. I provide them with a short amount of learning to do, directed learning, and then I test them on that learning after a short period of time. The whole point is can they learn? Can they do something new? And also, because of the pandemic, I mean, when we started this, we weren't aware the pandemic was going to happen. Literally, as this was launched, we were in the middle of lockdown. So I was thinking, right, there's going to be hundreds of people being put on furlough or possibly being made redundant. How many people am I going to get to apply this? I need a way of sorting through them. So a learning, a period and a test to see what would happen, and that's where I did it. We also evaluate the application. We have their CVs and covering letters. We ask them to send in once we've seen how they do. And then these are also passed on to the companies to assess as well. And they do some feasibility reports back to me as to what they think as to how the people are, which is very useful for me. I'm not in HR either, and also different skills are matching to different companies and different personalities of what we've got. Very useful feedback. And then that evaluation can help me link various candidates to companies. So my initial plan was to take on 2 or 3 people and then see how we go. The first batch of applications I had, we had 36 applicants. It was exactly an 18-18 split between male and female, which was really encouraging because it means I've not excluded anyone. Normally in tech companies, we're talking 10 to 15% tops, female to male proportion. To get 18 to 18 was fantastic. And after the learning, we actually had 8 successful candidates who managed to pass the test and learning, of which I then took 6 on. So it's actually been a very good, useful exercise to start with. So I already have 6 learners, and I said some of them are watching now, starting the training. So our target is to provide 24 placements over the period of the programme, finishing in July 2023. So the placements are partially funded by the programme themselves. So we provide a small amount of funding to the companies. The match funding, the other partial part, is the salary paid by the company to the placement, not to us or anyone else. That's the salary. That is the match funding, and it's how it works. There are also additional funds for companies that are able to provide us some extra services and extra support in some way, such as maybe coming along and doing some training with the placements on their skills that they particularly have. Talk about the companies, skills the companies actually have. We can actually pay for that support as well. And the funding for the placements for these candidates provides access to the paid platforms for learning. Also, say it provides a small part of their salary and additional funds available for extra support from the companies. So what we want to do is increase this is what we've got to try and achieve, increase local availability of industry relevant skills provision for businesses in the area, increase the number of small and micro businesses. It's aimed at small companies engaged in training provision, increase investment in skills, and provide a new source of knowledgeable talent for the companies. That's what we want to do. So if you have any ideas about you want to know more about this or get involved with this, or you think this might be useful, I don't think every company will be able to offer me a placement, but I do think every company has something to offer me in terms of knowledge that I could possibly pass on to the placements. What skills do you think I should be getting these people to learn? I've already learnt amazing things that surprisingly you wouldn't think were useful. Most companies are asking for very similar kind of talents, but you might have a specific talent or a specific knowledge that you think might be useful for me. And for those companies that can offer a placement at some point in the next year or 2 years, I would really love to hear from you. I don't know how many questions you'll have, but yes, I've also put, if you want to get involved in this, you can either come and see me, you can contact me directly, which is robert@softwarecornwall.org, or you can fill in the form at bit.ly Tech Gateway, and I'll get you information that way. So yes, thank you very much. Not bad. Okay.
Brilliant. I think there's probably questions. I'm very conscious of time, so I'm going to just do a quick check and see if there are questions. But we are overrunning slightly, so I think probably we'll stick around. We'll let you guys go. Say a big thank you to you all for coming. Thanks to everyone for tuning in online, and a huge round of applause again for our speakers, Max, Katie, and Woe. Thank you. I will wrap up there. Thanks very much.
Thank you.